Alright, so today we're going to be working with a framework called Bootstrap, and what that is, it's a CSS framework that makes working with CSS and stylizing HTML elements a lot easier, and it does so by the way of classes, which we talked about last time. And basically just Bootstrap is a library that has a bunch of built-in classes and pre-built styles that you can apply to all your elements without actually having to code the CSS yourself. And this site obviously isn't the prettiest, but it does look better than our unstyled site from last time, and that's because I use Bootstrap. But I haven't actually gone through the effort of customizing the CSS and making it look aesthetically pleasing, but because this website is just to showcase the components that Bootstrap has to offer and show how it works. So to get started, we're going to go into our IDE, and I've already typed up the template script here. And what you'll notice that's new is this link to Bootstrap's CSS, which can be found on their CDN. I'll have this link in the description. And also this meta tag. This meta tag is very important because it allows Bootstrap to be responsive, as in it changes whenever you have a changing display size. And it just basically informs Bootstrap of the display size and the viewport size, etc. And then in this body, we have these three script tags, which are basically, that just gives Bootstrap access to the libraries it needs to run its JavaScript code to, for example, animate their animations that they have built in. If you want to use any of those, you have to have these libraries. So you need all this to work with Bootstrap. This is going to be your template code. And then, so let's just get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the body, we're going to actually give it a class of background light, which you can see I already have here. So what that does is it gives the website this background color, which is just an off-white color. And then inside the body, we're going to add a div, and that's going to be this Jumbotron right here. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a div, and then we're going to give it the class called Jumbotron. And that's what this big display box here is called. It's called a Jumbotron. So we're going to have that div, and then inside of it, like you saw there, we're going to have a header. It's going to be an H1, and oops. It's going to be an H1, and it's just going to say Jumbotron header. And then below that, we had a paragraph that said, this is just some info. But what that's going to be is it's going to be a lead. And right here, I'm basically just showcasing the different types of typography you can have here. So we're just going to have class equals lead, and you'll see what that looks like. So class equals lead, and this is just some info. So we'll see how that looks right now. Here's the finished product. And then this is your lead right here, and this is your header. So then under that, we're going to actually have there's a horizontal divider. That's a HR thing. It's an HR tag. And we're going to give it the class of my4, which gives it a margin on the y-axis of 4, both the top and bottom margin of 4. So my4 right there. And that's just going to basically be this little horizontal divider here. So we save that, and then before looking at the site, we're going to also add the button and the text that goes with that. So we're going to say P, and we're going to close the P tag, and it's just going to say, there's even a button is what I think it says. There's even a button. And then under it, we're actually going to make the button, which is actually just an A tag, just a link like we had on our last video, except it has one of these Bootstrap classes. It actually has 2 of them, or 3 of them, which their classes are going to be, we're going to give it the, whoops. We're going to give it the button class itself, which is btn, and we're going to do button primary, and then we're also going to give it the button large, which is btn-lg. And then, because this button doesn't actually do anything, we're just going to give it an href of a £, which will just redirect it to the site it's already on. And for the role, we give it button, so Bootstrap knows that it is in fact a button, and it behaves as such. So we have this button right here, and we just say I do nothing, just as it says on the site. We'll save that, and we'll go reload and look at it. There you go. There's your text, and there's your button and your horizontal divider. So then after that, let's add that header on top of the Jumbotron. So that's actually going to be an H3. So we're going to have an H3 tag, close the tag, and we're going to have it just say fancy heading. And then under that, we're going to have, you see it has this subtext right here. To do that, we're going to use the small tag, and we're going to give it a class of text muted, which gives it that color. So class equals text hyphen muted. and inside it just says I'm subtext. So we can save that, and then we'll have our fancy heading in the subtext. So and then under this div, let's go ahead and add this row over here, this row of these 3 columns. We're going to add another div, and we're going to give this the class row. And this is actually the basis of how Bootstrap works. It works on a grid system built of rows and columns, and each row is 12 units wide. And you can set the column width to different things, anything from 1 to 12, and that'll just specify the percentage of the row that it takes up. So right here, this would be, this has a larger width than these 2 columns right here, but in total they take up 12. So what we're going to inside this div, this row div, we're going to add a div, we're going to add 3 divs, one for each row, and each one's going to have the class of column. One for each column. And so we're just going to copy paste that. And something we can do here is this actually is how we work with responsiveness. We can set the column width to be different based on the viewport size. So right here, we're going to set the column width on a small device to be 8 for this one, or to be 12 for this one, this first column. And then we're going to set it on a large device to be 6. So these are the corresponding classes. Then on this one, we're going to set the column size on a small device to be 8. And then on a large device, we're going to set it to be, where is it? 3. And then on this very last row, this very last column, we're going to give it on a small device a width of 4, and on a large device, we're going to give it a width of 3. So now the column width will actually change depending on how you scale your window or what device you're on. And I'll show you that in a second after we finish actually making the columns. So just to make it easier to see the columns and how they work, I'm going to add the border class, which is another Bootstrap class, to all of these columns. And it will just show a border around them so you can tell what exactly one column is. So now inside of each of the columns, we're going to start with this first one that has the image. So inside of it, we're going to have a header, another h3, no classes here because Bootstrap automatically styles all h3s in a certain way. And we're going to just say cool picture. Under it, we're going to actually have the picture itself. So we're going to have an image tag like last time, and we're going to say class equals rounded circle, which just means that it's going to be a rounded circle as opposed to a square image. We're going to have that rounded circle, and then we're also going to add the W25 class, which means that it has a width of 25%, which is a 25% of its parent div, which is this column, which has a varying width. So that just, again, helps make the image more responsive and have an appropriate size dependent on the viewport. So then we're going to have this. We're going to have these classes here, and we're going to have our source. Mine is going to be asset/image.jpg, but again, you can have whatever your source is. So we're going to save that. We're going to take a look at it, and there it is. Now in our second row, or second column, I keep saying that. Our second column, we're going to have a header that says cool text, h3. And then it's just going to say cool text on the inside. And then we're just going to have a paragraph under it. And inside the paragraph, we're just going to say lore moves to the lore, blah, blah, blah. Just filler text. I don't even care that I'm typing it wrong, honestly. And we're going to copy this blah, 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 just to give it some length. So that seems good enough right there. So that's our paragraph. And then in this very last div, we're going to have the collapse menu that I showed right here. When you click this button, it says I do something, it collapses and uncollapses this little show thing, this little paragraph. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the header, of course, like we did with every other div. And it's going to say collapse thing. You see what I did there? Anyways, we're going to go under that, and we're going to make a P, which is the stuff that we want to be toggling the visibility of. So inside of it, it's just going to say, just look at me, I was collapsed. And then we're going to give it the class of collapse, which just means it starts collapsed and it's collapsible, which means it can do that animation that we saw to toggle to visibility. So then after we have that class, we're also going to add an ID so that the button knows which element to actually toggle. So we're going to say ID is equal to, let's just say, collapse text. Next, we're going to actually add the button itself. So then we're going to use an A tag. We're going to say A, and then the href is going to be the ID that we had here. Whoops, we shouldn't have included that. But we're going to have the ID right here, which is collapse text, the element that it's toggling. And then we're going to have the additional attributes of course, class. We're going to have button and button primary. And we're going to have the attribute of role equals button, role equals button, and then data toggle is equal to collapse. And that just tells it to toggle the collapse of this element and not to toggle any other data. So data toggle, data toggle equals collapse. Now, of course, we want text inside the button, and as opposed to one up there that says I don't do anything, we're going to say I do something here. So then, in that should be our column completed. We're going to save that. We're going to go here and refresh, and there it is. It collapses, and then I'll show you the responsiveness right here. As you can see, as I scale this window, the column widths actually change size, and it changes layout. And that's exactly what you do with these column small 4, column large 3, etc. classes. It changes the width based on the total width of the viewport. Anyways, there's one last thing we need to do, and that is to center this cool picture right here. So then what we do is we just go to this div over here that's housing the image, and we're just going to give it the class of text center. And that should be it. Save it, reload, and here is our completed site. And everything functions, that should function, just as it does in the original, and that should be it.